everybody, it's Debbie Dim, Angel by the Minute here. So I'm a day late, sorry about that, on my video. I usually post on Sunday, but I found out yesterday I lost a dear friend of mine that I've known for 40 years. And I just needed time to process and think about what's happening with her, what she's going through right now. And I thought, I'm going to make a video about what happens when we die, because a lot of people wonder about that, and I don't want anyone to be afraid of what happens when they die. I think there's a lot of fear around it, and when you're a spiritualist, as I am, you learn that your soul continues after the change called death, and we never really die. We are all energy. Energy can never be destroyed, and we all have our own energy signature. So when you're in spirit, a medium, as spiritualist ministers are mediums, a medium can sense your energy as your soul and can communicate with you when you're on the other side. Now, whether or not you believe that, that's totally up to you, but that's what I believe. And I've seen evidence of that in spiritualist churches since I started attending them about the time I was 30 years old. I started going to spiritualist churches. And so in spiritualism, you learn that, the identity continues after the change called death. You can recognize the person. You can recognize their personality, things they say. They might communicate how they passed, what was happening in the room, who was there with them. They can tell you a lot of information that confirms that, yes, they are still very much aware and able to communicate with us when they leave. And sometimes this takes a while. Sometimes it takes more than, it just depends on the person and how they passed. Like a lot of times when people are ill, as my friend was for a long time, they have to go to what we call the hospital on the other side, and they kind of recover, even though their physical body is no longer in pain or no longer there. It takes them a while to adjust and to have the energy they need to communicate with the earth plane again. But some people go very quickly, and they're confused, like if they are killed or if they're in an accident and they die very quickly and they end up on the other side, but they're confused about what happened and if they're even dead or not. So that also takes time for them to be able to process and be guided with their guides and angels that meet you when you pass and your relatives, for them to contact the person and to help them in their transition. So it just depends on the person and usually in the manner in which they pass. So if someone just dies of natural causes, usually their relatives are waiting for them. Even in the room before they pass, they might look up and look in the corners of the room or look up to the ceiling and say they've seen their grandparents or someone who passed before them, and they feel like they're waiting for them, which they are. And so when they get to the other side, that person will guide them and show them how to move around, because you can go anywhere when you're in spirit. You can go any place, any time, even a different planet, I've heard people say. So you can go wherever you would like. And I'm actually looking forward to that, because that would be wonderful, not to have to fly in a plane or drive in a car. You can just say, well, I think I'll go to Paris today and see what that's like. It's just freedom from your physical body. Not to encourage anyone to make that happen sooner, but when you're in pain, when you are suffering, of course that seems like a great relief, and my friend was in a lot of pain. So I'm glad that she's in her spirit body now and she can fly free, even though I'll miss her very much, and of course it's usually death is worse for the people who are left on the earth plane, because you miss that person, you don't feel close to them, you don't feel that connection as much as you did when they were physically here with you. But that doesn't mean they're gone from your life. You can still experience them. You can still talk to them, and you should just talk to them out loud like they're still around, because they will hear you, and they'll be watching, and they might leave you little messages. They might come in your dreams. And my friend was a great dream interpreter, and we used to share our dreams with each other that we had the night before, and we would interpret each other's dreams and talk about them, and we learned a lot doing this, and I highly recommend doing that with someone that you are close to, because you can really learn a lot about yourself and your subconscious mind and how things work in the dream world. So that's a really fun experience to do, and to keep a dream journal too. So I might make another video about dreams sometimes, but I just want to tell this little story about a dream I shared with my friend. So I was staying at her house, and we weren't much of TV watchers then. We didn't watch very much TV. But in the morning, we would get up and we'd have our tea or coffee, and we would exchange dreams. And this one day, so I knew she did this. So after I moved away, or maybe it was before I moved in with her, but anyway, one day I called her up because I was very excited about this dream I had, and I wanted to tell her. So I had this dream that I was in my hometown. There was a big trial in the courthouse, and my hometown was a county seat, so we had a big courthouse, and there was a big trial going on for this serial killer, and somehow the serial killer got loose in the courthouse, and everybody was in a panic, and everybody was running to different rooms and hiding. And so I ran into this room that was empty. I don't know what it was for, but it had a table, a long table, in there with a body on it with a plastic sheet over it. And I was like, what in the world is this doing here in the courthouse? So I lifted up the sheet, and it was my grandfather who had passed years before. Okay, and when I was in junior high. So he sets up and he looks around, and I said, "Hey, Grandpa, you're alive. That's crazy. We all thought you were dead." Which, of course, this is years later after he passed. And I said, "You must be hungry. Let me go get you some Life cereal." And I look in these cupboards in the room, and there's Life cereal. And I said, "Here you go. Eat some Life cereal." Now, there was a joke in my family about Life cereal because I have a brother named Mike. So we always teased him about the Mikey commercial about he won't eat it, he hates everything. And then Mikey would eat the Life cereal. So this was a very big inside family joke. So I'm telling her this dream, and when I get to the Life cereal part, she cracks up laughing. And I said, "Jane," I said, "why are you laughing?" And she says, "Because it's Life cereal, don't you get it? And he came back to life." And I'm like, oh my gosh, how could I miss that? But see, that's what's so fun about having someone to talk about your dreams with. So that was really amazing, and she was just special that way. She could tell your dream back to you and make you see all the really cool stuff that was hidden in there. So I miss you, Jane, but fly free and be happy in spirit, and I will see you again on the other side for sure. And I hope this brings comfort to some people. And if you have any questions, of course, you can contact me at debbiedim@gmail.com or my website, angelbytheminute.com. And please, no comments negative about this video. This is just my belief, and you can believe whatever you would like to believe about death and dying and what happens when you die. So no negative comments, please, but I just wanted to share that with everyone today as I'm thinking about my friend Jane.